Hello and welcome to the Sensual Being podcast with myself, your host, Jolene Whiting. I have been a pole dance teacher for nearly 20 years. I'm also a yoga instructor, and my favourite pastimes are connecting to my own sensuality, connecting with the world, and connecting with animals as well. In this podcast, you'll find new and inventive ways of how you see yourself, connecting yourself with others, and also how you see and view the world around you. In this festive episode, we look into ways of trying to minimize stress at this time of year, and also how to feel less lonely. Hello, sensual being, and thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to be doing a little bit of a festive episode this week, as we are, if you're listening in real time, we are coming up to Christmas 2024, and a lot of the way I show up for Christmas has changed, particularly over the last maybe 3 years. People will remember me, and they probably still think of me as a Christmas junkie. And I used to be the person who would want to put up their Christmas tree just after my birthday in November. I was all about the build up to Christmas, absolutely loved it. And something has changed over the last few years, and I'm still working with it, so I can only give you where I am now with it. But last 2 years, I have put up my tree, but I have wondered whether I wanted to do it or not. I was adamant this year. I thought, I'm really not going to put it up. But the thing that has swayed it for me was the fact that most of my Christmas decorations that go on my tree, I have got a lot of memories attached to them. So I have bought them in places of meaning, when times we've gone out as a family, or places that I love, or something that, so I've got so many beautiful decorations with so many memories that I felt like that was something that I wanted. And to be honest, once I put up the tree, it does feel beautiful, and I am glad I've done it. But it has led me on to a little bit of other thinking. Now, I've done some episodes before about like, how would you feel if you lost all your photos? And this has come to light a little bit more recently, because I had a chat with my mum, surprise, surprise. And I said, I have this issue with photos, because I remember like not long after my dad had passed, my mum didn't have any of his photos up, and I couldn't understand why. This is going back, like 16 years or something, but I couldn't understand why. But I actually feel like now, whilst I respected it, I actually get it. Like I feel the reason why now. And I don't know if you feel like this, but I thought I wanted to share this, because I think Christmas time is a time when we can reflect back. And not only just reflect back, but we pull ourselves back into nostalgia. We think the times were much better before. And I'm not saying that they weren't good before, but we think that they were much better before compared to now. And that makes it harder to be in the now. And I think photos play a big part in this. Not the only part, but a big part. So the discussion went a little bit like this. My mum said that she basically had a flashback to being a child and living in the old house that she used to live in when she was a kid growing up. And this memory was sparked by the feeling of, she normally covers a hot water bottle with a cover, normally one that she's made, like mine. I've got ones that she's made covers for, because she's like that. She's very good like that. So she didn't have a cover on this hot water bottle, so she just held it. And they're like rubbery, and they haven't changed. I mean, I've never known hot water bottles to change. Whenever I've seen photos of them, they always look the same. They are a design that has not changed. So she was holding this hot water bottle, and the feel of it, the pressure of it, the smell of it. And she said, I was just transported back to when I was a child. And I said, I remember where my bed went, and my sister was there and everything. And this got me onto the topic. I said, this is really interesting, because the way she was talking about it was like it was happening now. I think it was because it really heightened all of the senses. And this got me thinking a bit more, because I thought I feel photos and video, because they don't play on your senses, they're not drawing from a memory that is implanted within the cells of your body. It's drawing on a memory. It's really hard to orchestrate this, which is literally just sort of it, almost just in that picture. So that picture makes you remember more. As in, when you see that picture, you remember what happened. And actually, if you hadn't seen that picture, you probably wouldn't be remembering it that well. And when you see a photo, it doesn't seem to draw on the senses. So it kind of like pulls you back into thinking, oh, times were much better then, or times were like this, or I was like this, we were like that. But when you have a moment where something will heighten your senses, it is almost like, I said to my mum, the way you're describing this, what's happening right now, is like it is happening right now. But when I look at a photo and it pulls me back, it's like it's an unnatural tether pulling me back to that moment. And I'm not even feeling that moment. I'm just feeling woe or sad or angry or like I'm feeling something like a loss or a wanting, or I have had, I have that sort of feeling. But when something happens, and like say if I smell like a certain aftershave, and I think, oh my God, that's like my dad. I remember what it was like when I used to hug him, and I remember this and I remember that, and suddenly that memory feels beautiful. But like when I look at photos, I don't have that same feeling. And it's really odd. And I wanted to share that with you because it's something that's come up for me lately. And it's not really something that I've put that type of thought into. And you might be thinking, no, photos don't do that to me. And I'm like, that's cool if they don't do that to you. But I actually don't have photos around anymore. And a lot of the time, like I go out places and I see people taking photos and I sort of think, oh, I used to do that. Should I be doing that? What's it for? And it's really odd. I don't know. Something has switched in my way of thinking, and I thought I'll share that with you today. So when we navigate Christmas, our Christmases will change over the years. Now, they might change rapidly in a couple of years like mine have done. Just by the way I think about Christmas now, I see a lot of the consumerism, I see a lot of the stress, I see a lot of the must do this, must do that, must have everything kind of right kind of feel. And I was never quite that far. I used to enjoy buying the presents. And this year people have said to me, oh, are you ready for Christmas? I said, yeah. And they're like, have you done your presents already? I said, yeah. I'm not doing any. Because it's just like, it's been so hard to set that as a boundary. I have tried it for a couple of years because I've not really been bothered about presents for a while now. But spending time with people, that is the present. Literally, your presence is my present. And it's so weird how we've warped that literal, like, person to person in the moment to be some sort of shop bought gift. And I find it really random when you look at the play on words. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So trying to set this as a boundary, it's a boundary, has been really hard. You're like, oh no, we've got to get you, I want to get you something. Oh, what would I get so-and-so? What would I get? And it's like, does it matter? Does it matter? It's like all this stress is being caused, and I see it. And I went into a supermarket the other day, and it was like, fucking hell, this is busy. And I turned to my partner, I said, I'm not happy in here. And it wasn't just because it was busy. It was the energy of people in there. They weren't in there because they were wanting to be in there. They were like forced into there. And I'm like, what's the point? I don't understand what that point is at all. I don't. And I've got so far away from it now that I can't be any part of it. And I just want to spend the time with people that I love. I want to make sure we all have a good time. I don't need all the stress or the extra money, that goes with it. And, I'm trying to downsize all of my stuff ready to move, because there's a lot of stuff I think I don't want to move that. I can't be bothered. And someone said something recently, I try and remember what it was. We were talking about stuff, whether you wanted to keep it or get rid of it. And it was something along the lines of basically, I think it was basically along the lines of, if it got dirty, would you clean it or would you just throw it away? And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Looking at it like that, so much of my stuff I want to get rid of. So I don't want anything extra that I don't need. I really, really don't. And even like with my pole dancing shoes, I don't buy them as much anymore. I love the ones I've got, but I used to love buying them a lot more than I do now. And when I get them now, they feel extra special. I feel like they do. Maybe they always felt extra special. I don't know. I do still love them. I just don't buy them as much anymore. But another thing around Christmas as well is sometimes people feel like they're really lonely. And I hate to think that there are people out there that feel lonely. I really, really do. But I don't think it's people who feel lonely at Christmas feel lonely at other parts of the year. And I have a bit of a theory behind this. And you might think, no, that's not right, Jolene. Or you might think, actually, it might be right. I don't know. But this is partly why I do the podcast, because I want you and everybody to come home to themselves, to find the love for themselves. Because when you show yourself love, it beams out of you, and it is a light so bright that people just want to be near you. With when you are, I'm not saying all lonely people do this, by the way, but I'm just generalizing a bit for you to try and understand where I'm coming from. So if there's somebody that is like, oh, no one ever comes to see me, I'm all on my own, I'm all like this, I'm all like that, oh, you don't naturally want to be around them. And actually, that feeling is a choice. And that's when they say the truth hurts, and a tough pill to swallow, that's what they mean, is things like that, because that is the truth. If for example you're angry at someone, you've made the choice to let yourself be angry and to continue being angry about something. The people who just seem to hold grudges, they always got a grudge, they've always got a gripe in their life. These people, I'm pretty sure 99.999% of the time, they don't actually feel anything towards themselves. Whereas when you start to turn the light around, we've been taught, we grow up, and when we watch Christmas films, when we watch them, particularly Christmas films, they're always about falling in love, meeting each other. And I love all these stories, yeah? But that's not just a perfect Christmas. It's not the only Christmas. Because the perfect Christmas doesn't exist. Because perfect does not exist. And the thing is, all these films, all these like beautiful romantic films, they all seem to paint this perfect picture. Oh, it would all come together, everyone will fall in love, and everyone will all be happy. You don't need to fall in love outside of yourself to be happy. You fall in love with yourself first. And you might think, nah, Jolene, I hate all this, love yourself and stuff. But I'm sorry, but it's true. It's true. Beauty comes from within, and you need to see your own beauty. And I remember once somebody who I know very well, she sent me a reel on Instagram like ages ago now, probably a few years ago. And it was a reel that had this woman in there going, hey, love yourself, to all of her friends, like, love yourself. Don't forget, love yourself. And that's the main bit of what it was like. And then they pointed the finger back at her and said, oh, don't forget to love yourself too. And she went, oh my gosh, no, can't do that. But why not? And I'm sitting here with a big beaming smile on my face because I know how much greener the grass is on the other side of self-love. I honestly do. And I don't know that I've ever really been someone that's absolutely hated myself. I don't really think I've been there. I've been someone who's always thought that I needed X, Y, and Z to be better. I've definitely been there. I've been that person. I don't think I've ever been someone who's actually, honest to God, actually hated myself. But I certainly have lived my life for a very, very long time thinking, if I get this, I will be happy. If I look like that, I will be better. If I manage to do this, I will be better. I mean, for God's sake, I've nearly given up pole dancing. Bear in mind, I've been teaching now for 20 years. I nearly gave up years ago because I couldn't do the splits. Yeah, like, why? Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But so many people were pushing for that, and I thought I had to too. You know, I got caught up in what other people were doing. I've gone off on a right tangent now. I gotta try and bring this back around to Christmas now. And I'm like, how do I do that? Splits, banana split, you know, Christmas pudding. Okay, now we're back onto Christmas. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that comparison of yourself to others will harm you in so many ways. And this is why, if you can't love yourself, and it's okay if you don't feel that love all the time, but you've got to know it's there. You simply got to know it's there. Because if you can do that, you might be alone at times, but you won't feel lonely. The only times that I ever feel lonely are when I am with groups of people that I just don't click with. And I think, I don't like being here, you know, and it's like, I can actually feel lonely at those times. So if you do have this love for yourself, and I'm not saying, if you are going through like a major point of change in your life or grief, you will go through all of the emotions and you have to just go through them. You ride through them, and it's a tough ride. It's a tough ride. So if you were going through that ride and I'm bouting on about self-love, you will get there, but you might not be there right now. All you can do in this moment is just trust that it will come back round. Trust that you will come back to you again. And that's okay, because we all go through stuff. I go through stuff in my life. And I will continue to go through stuff because that's life. We cannot stop that. But the more we can be in this moment, the more we can actually live in joy as best as possible. I actually appreciate life, or to live in gratitude. Whatever it is for you that brings you back to this moment. It might just be, I appreciate the fact that I got up today by myself. I can walk today. It might be bigger things. You know, it can be anything, but to try and bring that appreciation back will bring you back into the moment. So if you are struggling right now, like really struggling because you are going through something big, just know that it will come back round. You will feel like yourself again. Just remember that. And try and be aware of things that you watch over Christmas, or the inputs that you take in. Because like I say, Christmas is not always about falling in love and finding that perfect relationship outside of yourself. But all Christmas films will have you believe that. And I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying you need to know what they are and what you are. Because it's not necessarily the same thing. But to be fair, when I used to have a TV, I used to love binge watching all the Christmas films on Netflix. I really did. It was one of my favourite things. I don't oddly miss it now, which is very odd, but I do read Christmas books, like stories set around Christmas time. I'm finding that is a good thing for me to do instead of watching the films, but I did used to love the films a lot. I also want you to think about, whilst we're on this like self-love, I want you to think about how much you can respect yourself over this Christmas time, because respect doesn't have to revolve around self-love. So if you're not there, don't worry. But respect, you can think, well, how much stress am I putting on myself? Are there any boundaries I need to set with anybody to make my life better? And to make maybe everybody's life better. It's a bit like the present one, yeah? If I was like, no, we've all got to do presents for each other and we're all going to sit around, again, that's putting stress on other people. So while setting the boundary of, no, I don't want presents, and people being like, what? Well, I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, just don't buy me anything. And they're like, I can't do that. And I'm like, well, I said, that's what I want for Christmas. It's not necessarily easy, But that boundary has been, I think actually it's going to pay off in its own right, because in a couple of weeks' time, no one's going to care. Like, it'd be fine. But then if you say, oh yeah, I want this, that, and the other, suddenly everyone's money is going to start ticking up, or debt is going to rise. And I don't want people to feel like that. I don't want people to feel out of pocket this Christmas when they didn't have to be. So thinking about this respect, do you want anyone to be out of pocket for you? Do you want to be out of pocket? It's respect for yourself. Like, how can you make this work for you and for everyone? And also, like, things like drinking. I know I don't drink, but if you do drink at Christmas, think about what you're drinking. I mean, a lot of the time, and I've done this before, like, you have a drink with breakfast because you're like, oh, it's Christmas. How are you going to feel during the rest of the day? Honestly, don't get caught up in doing things just because it's Christmas. If something isn't right for your body or at that time, and you're like, nah, I'll be better drinking once I've had some food, I'll have a drink this evening, wait, because you can still have a good time. You don't need to do all these things just because it's Christmas. You don't have to stay up late just because it's Christmas. Try telling your kids that. Good luck with that one. That's going to be a hard one for them. But really try and think about how much respect can you give yourself. And if you've got any time off or any sort of downtime this Christmas, can you actually prioritize rest? Can you actually give yourself some downtime? And if you don't do this, it's going to feel weird. It's a bit like when I've tried to go through stages of making more time to read in the day. I find that's easier to do in the winter somehow than in the summer. I feel like I'm more on the go in the summer. But when I try and read more during the day in winter, I find that it feels really hard. But once I sink into it, it feels so lovely. But it's that feeling of, even if you're like, oh, rest would be really good for me, and you have a bit of rest in the day, you'll probably feel guilty. Have a notebook by you, because you'll probably think of a whole list of things that you need to do. So write them down. Otherwise, they just go around your head. Yeah. So it's remembering that if you do decide to prioritize rest and you don't do that, it's gonna feel odd. And you can't really get away from that. It's just going to feel odd. If you're like, oh, I want to go for more walks outside, but you don't do that, again, it's going to feel odd. Make sure you're dressed right for it, because don't put it down, oh, it felt weird because it was cold and I didn't like that. Dress properly. Layer up. It will help you. And I think it's that saying, isn't it? It's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. And I do fully believe that a hell of a lot. And then before we finish, I would just like you to think about when we go into New Year. And I'm not majorly big on like New Year's resolutions and things like that. But what I do like is I like pockets of time throughout the year. And New Year is one of those that we all seem to do at the same time, is like setting a new way forward, things you want for like the following year. But when you do that, a lot of the time these sort of resolutions and goals fall away. There was an episode I did, I'll link to it below, and I did it about a year ago, and that was about setting goals and resolutions and why you should do it and why you shouldn't do it. So it came at it from both angles. So that's a good one to look into. But even if you, like, say, for example, if you've been ill or if you've been on holiday or a project has ended and you get that new burst of, oh, new routine is coming, new vibe is coming, what do I want now? So this isn't just for New Year, but the fact that we all do this at this time of year is an interesting one to think about. But you actually really do get to design your life how you want it. So if you really think that you just go with what everybody else does, you do not have to. If you're like, do you know what? I just want to change my life this year. I want to do this. I want to start doing that. You actually can do that. And 3 good areas to look at. So if you get a piece of paper and draw 3 columns on it, and In the first column, you put what you want to experience. In the second column, you put the growth. And in the third column, you put contribution. That's a really nice way to see, and just write whatever you want on there, just see what comes out, to see what you want in your life. Now, you can do this at any time. It does not have to be New Year, but you can do this at any time. And when you write down the experience, it's like the things you want to experience in your life, like maybe places you want to go, how you want to live and things like that. Growth can be more about, are there any new skills that you want to learn? Are there any qualifications that you want to get? Is there just general new things you want to learn about? Or is there things that you're like, oh, I need my body to be a bit healthier and stuff like that. Maybe what can I do about it? And then putting that sort of thing down there. So your growth, that would be like in your growth section. And then in contribution would be things like, I don't know, like any charity work. Do you want to smile to more people and say hello to more people? Do you want to start a fundraiser? Do you want to give donations to a food bank? Do you want to, anything to do with contribution? Are you trying to help people live better lives? It can be anything in that sort of area. It could be animals or the environment, but it's contribution to the world, to the environment, to people, to animals, to ways of living. So if you're unsure, but you want kind of like a new way forward for the next year, do those 3 columns, experience, growth, and contribution, and just write down in each of those columns what happens, or what you would like to have happen. It might be things that you're already doing that you want to continue as well. Don't be afraid to put, if you've got good stuff going on, don't be afraid to put that down. And I feel like it's so easy at the end of the year to look back and go, that was rubbish. Can't wait for this year to be over. The amount of people that live like this, they get buzzed up for the new year, and then towards the end of the year, can't wait to see the back of this year. You have got to be able to look back on your year and be able to see the milestones that you have passed. And the one big one that you've got, if you're listening to this right now, is that you've lasted a whole another year. Because from my experience, not everybody has. So if you take nothing else to be grateful for the year that's just been, just know that I'm grateful that you have made another year. Because that's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. It is phenomenal. So I hope you've taken lots from that. Remember to enjoy the festive period. Try and make it how you want it. And try your best to offer compassion to those around you as well. Because Christmas can bring up a lot of stress. If you can be that beacon of light just to offer compassion, it won't always be easy. But if you can offer compassion to those around you, particularly those who feel that they do get stressed out at this time, then maybe we can all get together to help each other make our lives better. So, as always, remember to lead through your life with your heart and to live with intention. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please do share it with your friends and on social media. If you have the time to rate or review this podcast, I'd be ever so grateful. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Jolene Sensual Being. The links to my YouTube and to sign up to my mailing list will be in the show notes as well. I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.